Hi and hello, watch fans. Welcome back to the Real Time Show with me, your friendly neighborhood jeweler, Alon Joseph. In the virtual studio, another Dutchman. I will forgive him, he's not from Amsterdam, he's from Rotterdam. Rotterdam is the nemesis of Amsterdam. We are phone code 020 and they are phone code 010. And they have a football, or for our American listeners, a soccer team called Feyenoord. But we usually don't talk about them. They want to be like Ajax. They have white and red in their logo and outfits as well. I have in the studio my dear friend Diederik van Golen. For the Americans, it's Diederik van Golen. Diederik, welcome.
Hi, good day. Thank you for having me over here. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine because you are a fellow watch nerd, fellow member of Red Bar Crew.
Yep.
Netherlands. You have now started your second watch brand. And besides our passion for watches, we are both petrol heads, sneakerheads, and something I don't share with you is the love for boats and yachts, which will come to surface in this conversation. So Diederik, we have to kick off this conversation to ask, why are you so crazy to start a second watch brand? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I think I have the same virus every watch collector has. It just keeps on tingling and getting your heart rate up when you talk about watches and interact with watches. So I had my first watch brand, as you mentioned. Then I'm still in the yachting and boating scene. But now my kids are 2 and 4, so I thought I have a bit of spare time again in my life. And it just kept on tingling to start another watch brand. So, it needed to happen. And I think it's the best decision I made last year, because it's really cool to re-interact with everybody and see old familiar faces and get to learn some new faces. So it was a good move.
Amazing. Congrats. Last summer, you officially announced the launch of Volan watches, VOLAN-watches.com. For those listeners that want to have a quick look what it is. And what it is, it made you a trailblazer, an innovator. You basically paved the way for Swatch and Audemars Piguet to make key fob watches on Vogue again. So tell us what Volan Watches is, what you set out to do, and what you're actually producing and selling today.
Yeah, Volan Watches is a key fob watch. So it's an automatic Swiss movement in a key fob. So it tells the time and you can use it at your car keys or at your boat keys. So it was a design concept from the 40s and 50s. It became quite a hit back in the days. Then it got lost, I guess, because the wristwatches got cooler and cooler. Back in my days at university, I bought a classic tire watch, and I always kept it at my car keys, and had the idea, if I am in the opportunity and have a bit of time, I would like to revive this design concept. And then with my years in the yachting industry, I thought I would have to make a yacht version as well. So instead of the rubber road tire that's surrounding the pocket watch, I also made a version with vintage teak and birch wood to make it look like resemble as a deck of a Riva yacht.
So let's back up. For those listeners that never heard of tire watches, describe it to them. Maybe there are people that listen that didn't see what Swatch and AP did.
Yeah.
So describe literally what you're talking about when you bought a vintage tire key fob watch.
Yeah, the thing is, I think it's an evolution on the pocket watch. So first you had a pocket watch, then some cool guys made a tire around it and put their pocket watch on their car keys. So it has a rubber, let's say, protective ring that resembles a tire from a car. So it's a pocket watch with simply put, it's a pocket watch with a rubber tire around it. And instead of the rubber, I also added the wooden version as a protective ring, but then in vintage teak from the 60s and some birchwood. I think that's the easiest way to explain it.
Well done. What are the most collectible vintage ones today, and who manufactured them? Can you mention some brands that we might know?
Yeah, I found over 50 brands who did it in the past, and a few that you know. It's Zenith, Giro Pergo, Timex, and of course Marvin. I think Marvin was the biggest. But it's also cool to know that some other big brands made those tire watches as well.
Besides Volan today, who else manufactures them, or are you the only one?
Only one. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the only one crazy enough to do it, I guess.
Were the vintage ones with an automatic caliber, hand wound, quartz?
Both. It started manually wound, but also automatically. And I haven't seen quartz versions.
What was your consideration to do automatic versus hand wound, and why not quartz into bigger volumes?
I think it's with the Volan, I really want to go analog, mechanically, and back to the old days. And I think with quartz, it isn't the right feeling, and it becomes a bit, maybe a bit cheap and a giveaway. And I want to have the respect for the watch and also for the Swiss movement. So I used the SW200 movement. And I went for the automatic version because it has the same power reserve as the manual one, and it has just a bit more like a fidget spinner vibe that you can see through the sapphire caseback as well.
Technically, these fobs are suspended most of the time vertically.
Yeah.
So, do you run into issues with power reserve on these watches, or no?
No, it's an whole different way to use the watch or the timepiece, I guess. So with the watch comes a valet tray that you could put your other car keys or home keys or whatever in, and then you have the volant with your favorite car key or boat key on a pole. And I think it's also to interact with it. So, for example, I have it on my desk. And with a manually wound version, you also have to wind it, and with an automatic version sometimes as well. But I think it's also a way to interact. That, for example, you have your Sunday morning coffee, you look at your valet tray, see the volant with your classic car or cabriolet, whatever, and say, okay, I'm gonna go take it out for a spin. So it's a different way to interact with your timepiece, I guess.
Amazing. I just want to do an intermezzo. Just go back and talk a bit about you. You said you're a young dad. We'll forgive you, as I said, you're from Rotterdam, but you're a cool cat. Walk us a bit through your life. How did you get into watches? Where does the passion come for watches? Why did you start your initial watch brand, which was EZA, EZA? And walk us through also your yachting career and what the similarities are, maybe.
Yeah. I started my watch hobby or passion, I think, at the end of the high school, and took it along with me at university. I did my business administration and my master in entrepreneurship at the Erasmus in Rotterdam. And I think I read more about watches than about business administration or whatever. I was fully onto the fora, the blogs, and everything. So I just wanted to keep getting more and more knowledge. That's why I also choose the master about entrepreneurship, because I wanted to start my own watch brand when I was done at university. So I did my master's thesis about luxury goods and emerging markets. And I used the Swiss watch export data and had the Hofstede cultural dimensions analysis on it. But yeah, it all came down that I wanted to do something with watches, or at least with luxury goods. Then before graduating, I got a phone call from a guy who owned a yachting brand. And he said, "Would you like to have a talk?" He offered me a job because there are quite some similarities about watches and yachts. It's both either really big groups or small independent ones, fully focused on craftsmanship, details, being mostly small boutique brands. So that was quite relatable. I worked there for 2 years, and then I thought, okay, I now have it a bit under control. So in the evening hours, together with my companion, I started the watch brand Aza Watches. It was mostly classic styled dive watches, then with ETA 2824 movements, spec wise, really good, price wise, good, I guess. And that's how we started that first brand. And it was alongside my yachting career. And that was really big fun because you get to go into different spots, and your funnel, or my funnel, only got bigger and bigger because either I was talking to watch guys or to yacht guys, but there were quite some similarities. Then I sold the ESA company and moved on at two yacht brands. And then I guess 6 years later, I thought, yeah, it's time again to start something. So I started Volan, and I thought if I want to start something, I really want to go into the niche because the ESA brand was quite not generic, that's a bad word, but it was specification based, value for money, and I guess good designs. And with Volan, I really want to tap into the niche and to a really big niche. So that was why I wanted to do something that was out of the ordinary. The good thing is I saw that the industry was moving more to design specs watches instead of specifications, and more into storytelling, or even more into storytelling. So I guess I was lucky that AP and Swatch also went pocket watch, but yeah, that was a good call, I guess.
That was actually one of my questions, but I'll park it for a moment when we dig a bit deeper on entrepreneurship. What I was meaning to ask you, what does Volan mean as a word or name?
Volan means it has two meanings. It's either steering wheel or the flying one. And when I read that, I thought that this is exactly what I want that the Volan moment is that you drive the boat in a hot summer night in the evening and just feel like you're flying, or take a B road with your car, not getting from A to B, but just to be behind the wheel and take the mountain curves or whatever. So that was and that's where you need your Volan. At least in my opinion, you need your Volan at your side to do those stuff.
In what languages, Diederik?
It's it's in French and in Latin and Italian as well, a bit.
I'm assuming here this is a name you've came up with. It's not a vintage or heritage brand name. EZA, EZA, I believe, if I remember correctly from back in the days when you were at that company, it was a 1920s Fortan based brand. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Really, you're good on memory.
So, what was for you a liberation or deliberation to not do a old vintage name, to revive that again and start a brand new one?
I think because Volan is so in the niche, it could easily carry its own weight in the name and start a new movement that's not really for the wrist, but timepieces for other things than the wrist. So with the ESA, it was really good that we chose ESA because they were a case manufacturer back in the days, then became a watch brand. So then a diving watch to start off with was quite well for the story and for the heritage. And I thought with Volan, I could really create a new movement of a brand that's not only wristwatches but just timepieces that do something different.
How difficult was it to do the IP around the brand? So the registration, did you trademark the name, URL, IP? I don't know if there is any IP there.
Yeah, I trademarked everything, and it's quite easy. You have the Chamber of Commerce in Rotterdam. Go there on bike and explain what you're gonna do, and they are quite willing to help. So I've done it before, of course, with ASA and with the yacht brand. So um, yeah, it's quite straightforward to do that, but you just have to invest a bit of time in it.
Well, you state that it's so simple, but that's only the Dutch Chamber of Commerce, and that's a Dutch trade name. Did you go further by registering the brand name as a trademark in the EU, pan European? Did you do US, Asia? Because that's rather expensive. And I also refer to the WIPO database, the WIPO, World Global Brand Database.
Yeah, I've done it for Europe and for the Netherlands. And luckily, I have a good friend who's a lawyer in IP, and they mentioned it's quite enough. And then again, maybe we have to go global as well. But for now, if you say I think he mentioned that if you're originally from the Netherlands and you're based in the Netherlands and you've done it in Europe, it's already sufficient.
I beg to differ, but that's maybe a different discussion that we can have a IP special episode, and maybe we should bring an IP lawyer or a panel of them on air.
Yeah.
Usually you register in one primary category and usually get two for free. So you probably chose category 14. Is that correct?
I can't recall. I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
But you're better on this.
It's not about better, but it's tricky and it's a consideration if you are registering a new name or an old name, which you have to travel the same road because you need to re-register old names, and they could be minefields to navigate, especially if you do or don't do Switzerland. And in your key markets. That leads me as a segue to the following up question. How is it going and what are your biggest markets?
It's going quite well. Really good. When I started, I didn't expect it would go this well, especially from foreign countries, people I really don't know. My biggest market up to now is the Asian market and the US, but it's quite random where people come from. Lots from Switzerland, Dubai, Singapore a lot, and the US.
So that touch upon my thing. You didn't register your brand name there. So food for thought, and I would actually want to spark a discussion in the TRTS WhatsApp community where you're also an avid member of, is that maybe we have some lawyers in there and IP specialists that we can discuss this post airing this episode and give Diederik some feedback. And if you're not a member of the WhatsApp community, I kindly invite you to join us. It's a very cool, tight-knit community. We have zero asshole policies, so we're all in good mood and help each other. There's a lot of camaraderie. If you want to join that community, please send a message to one of the TRTS team members and we'll add you. So you said it doesn't, or actually you did say it surpassed your expectations. What were your expectations? Can you share a bit of numbers? What are you selling? You're almost a year down the line. Yep. So what were your KPIs or expectations, and how can you quantify how they surpassed your expectations?
Yeah, I thought it would. I would be for 2 years in, because I also understand that it's quite a difficult product to sell. Normally with the other watch brand, I just went, even if I didn't want to sell, and I went into a birthday party with 40 people, I would sell 5 without trying. And now when with Volan, I go to the same birthday party, I sell none. But then again, worldwide, there are the car community, especially, is really big, and that's something I noticed. So now, on average, I sell one Volan a day, and that it. I was thinking it would take me 2 years to sell out, but I'm already there. So I ordered a new batch, and it keeps on going for so long. So that's good.
One a day is on average 365 pieces. I assume you had issues convincing manufacturers to work with you. You have MOQs, minimum order quantities. So if I would say you had to do a 300 calibers and cases, am I about right?
Yeah, yeah, you're fully right. That's a
Yeah.
minimum MOQ, and I also wanted to do a minimum MOQ because for me it was also kind of a gamble to start this brand. And I had a few conversations with people from the industry, also with you, of course, Alon, to show the product, and that got me convinced enough to do it and to make this rather bold move.
It is a bold move, and I want to congratulate you on doing this because I believe you sold over 300 now solely through your website. You don't have retailers or any other sales partners, do you?
No, correct. I'm working on a few retailers and sales partners, but it was mostly via the website. So I did a few pieces via good friends or retailers in the car industry, but mostly it was via the website.
So congrats, because you've sold around 300,000 US or euro, whatever currency you want, in a year. Kudos to you. This is pre-Royal Pop.
Yeah.
So you really trailblazed, in my humble opinion. What did the Royal Pop do for you as a company? You touched upon that topic. Can you quantify stats, more traffic to the site? Did you sell more watches? Did you see an uptick in sales because of the frenzy around the AP Swatch collab?
Yeah, I think it came at the right timing because we went live in December with delivering all the watches, and then the AP came early spring. So for me, I think it also helped the longevity of the product, and especially for people who are less in the watch scene and more like, let's say, the not the watch collectors, but the guys who like a watch or two, and then they got convinced, okay, Swatch and AP are doing pocket watches. Pocket watches can be cool, so let's go for the Volan. So I think the less risky guys also get to know pocket watches, and that it can be cool and be socially accepted to enjoy a pocket watch.
So what's next? You sold out. You had two versions: teak, rubber, tire, two dials. What are you doing next with Volan?
I'm working on a cool collaboration. Cannot say much about that yet, unfortunately. And I'm thinking about some new models, either wrist or a carry-on as well. But working on those first, getting the collaboration versions up and running and really perfectly, and then moving forward with some new models. So I have lots of 3D printed cases already laying around at the office, but it needs to be the right moment to launch those as well.
How crystal clear was it for you to kick off Volan with suspended watches? Let me call them, for argument's sake, like that. There are technically pocket watches as well, versus wrist watches.
That was crystal clear. I want to revive this design concept and also create a niche and use it. Maybe if you want to see it business wise, create a beachhead strategy. So to penetrate the market, I think nowadays there are lots of really good micro brands, and if you want to compete with those guys who are really doing incredible stuff, You have to have a really good product, good story, and good distribution. And I think as a startup nowadays, really good niche product can create, can penetrate the market and become a real competitor. And also, I think you have to the threshold to enter the market nowadays. I think is much higher than back in the days when I started ASA. So you need to do something different at the moment.
So that begs the question: if you are going to do wristwatches, can you shed a light on what you are going to do differently with Vola?
I think if it's going to be a wristwatch, it's going to be much more specific and out of the ordinary, so that if you see something on the wrist, you will definitely know it's a Volan or what you have to use it for. So it will be visually already a niche.
Lunettes, bezels made of teak and rubber.
No, probably not.
I assume you do a lot of corporate gifting, and you've been asked. You've probably made them car brands, car dealerships, maybe big petrol heads, companies. What if our listeners are hearing this and are jumping up and down in their seat or in their car or while they're working out or in the gym and run even fast on the treadmill? They want to do a series with you. What's the MOQ with Volan?
It depends a bit on what they like. For example, engraving the sapphire caseback is easier to do than getting custom dials or custom rings around it. So it fully depends on how far they want to go. But normally, I would say we start talking about something custom for people around 20 pieces.
Amazing. Talking about marketing, how did you start off? So you had an idea, you made a prototype, you went for it. You didn't do a crowdfunding campaign, Kickstarter, whatever. You went all out. How did you do the marketing?
Yeah, for ASA, it was different. It was back in the days we did a bootstrapping strategy. So we had 4 samples, did a launch event, and then had people buy in their watches and wait for 6 months until we produced them. But that was back in the days, 2 years out of university. So that's a different way of starting up. Now, what further down my career, I thought I have to fully fund it myself. It's a luxury brand, and you need to come all out, full force. So I funded it myself. I had some prototypes. Luckily, I knew a lot of watch journalists and had some advice from different people where to be, where to go, ask around, and started from there. Then as well, I think I did a few events just to get people to touch and feel the product, because it's not, you cannot see, okay, it's a 39 millimeter diameter, so I think it will fit my wrist. You really have to touch and feel it to get to know the product. I think that helped out a lot. And what my initial thoughts were, I first want to be that it's a good watch, so that the watch journalists wrote about it, that it's good specifications, good finishing. And then afterwards, I tried to convince the car guys and the watch guys and journalists to write about it, and that they also know, okay, this is watch-wise a good product.
That's actually interesting. How much are the segmentations of buyers if you look at watch nerds, petrol heads? What do you actually call people that are passionate about yachting?
Yachties.
Yachties.
Yachties, yeah.
See, I learned something new on air. Do you know the division between the three by any chance?
Yeah, it's for sure. Everybody needs to be a watch geek, a watch nerd, and then luckily they go hand in hand with cars most of the time. And it's 75-25, I guess, something like that. the yachting scene is much smaller than the car scene, and in the car scene, I think they like to customize a bit more. They like a carbon spoiler, or they like a multi-liter steering wheel. So it's more an industry where passionate people do small upgrades, and then a Volan can be a small upgrade as well.
Chronographs in the pipeline?
That's one of the options, to do a really cool chronograph. Yeah. But it's also a bit more different, because I want to have it really rugged and tested, and especially around boats, jumping into the water, having a fun day out, creating that Volan moment. It needs to be quite a rugged chronograph.
So you had that initial wave, you had a lot of support, a lot of PR, media. We're a year down the line. What now? What do you do to capture the attention of consumers?
For now, I want to go more out on the streets, more physical, so more events. So you'll see me around some bigger car events. I guess that's a really good, because I've been to a few watch exhibitions, and that was really good. But I think the market is really big in the car scene, where they like watches. So for me now, from getting online lots of attention, and I want to get physical, be on exhibitions, on fairs, and show them the watches.
After that, Instagram the most important, SEO, maybe LLM, so ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. How do you take it from there? What's important for you?
For now, it's important, I guess, to get also a bit of brand leverage from other retailers, distributors, car enthusiasts, and that mostly goes via Instagram. But I want to have a few more key figures who really like the product or collaborate with the product. So I think that's another really direct way, but an indirect way to get the product seen.
As an entrepreneur and a brand owner, what are bottlenecks you encounter?
I think now the biggest bottleneck is distribution, and that's more in the shape that I want to be there, and I want to be on the own events. I still have the two yacht brands I run, so I have to divide my time a bit. So I think the bottleneck is me at the moment. So I want to be at more events, I guess, show the products around, but I think that's the biggest bottleneck. I try to arrange this business, especially contrary to the yachting business, to scale up much easier. Because if we, for example, build 20 boats, to build 24 boats the next year, that's quite difficult. That's quite a big task. And to scale up watches, it's much easier, especially in the starting phase. So I think the biggest bottleneck is myself being present.
So, what are you going to do to overcome that? You're an entrepreneur, you've always been. You think outside the box, and you dare to take risk.
Yes, so I'm now looking into some really cool retailers and some good partners. I have a sales guy who is doing the car brands and the car companies and boat companies in the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, and some car events. So that's already taking away. That gives me a bit of more time, and I'm now busy in talking to a few really cool guys in the industry who have a bigger distribution as well.
So, retailers and wholesalers listening, you can reach Diederik if you want to get on board. Taking a helicopter view, Diederik, would you agree with my hypothesis that looking at percentage of Dutch, we're a small nation, only 80 million inhabitants, we have a rather big relative footprint in the watch industry?
Yeah, I guess so. It's always good fun when in Geneva that you have a big Dutch community drinking beers after the show. But I think the French are doing really well, and the Dutch are there as well, and also the Dutch, I think, are there for the long run. There are a few good brands building and really getting their foot down or their footprint up in the watch world. So it's a good thing to see.
Why do you think that is?
Don't know. I think we're straight shooters and not afraid to dive in. But it's I think yeah I really don't know.
I think it has to do something with boats in the 17th century. 17th century.
I didn't want to mention that.
You can. I mean, we're a seafaring nation, so no, interesting. Collabs with, you mentioned you want to do collabs. I assume yachting brands, boat brands, car brands. Would you, if you're daydreaming, want to do a collab with a watch brand, and if so, which ones?
With a watch brand. Ooh, yeah, there are. Yeah, then holy shit, that's a good one. For a boat brand, for sure, it would be Riva. And for a watch brand, yeah, there are a few. I cannot really pick one, but for sure it would be an active one that a watch brand that's yeah I know one. It's MB&F of course, or Mad maybe. It's more I'm more in the Mad league than the MB&F league. But that's I think also more timepieces than only wristwatches. So that would be and I really envy and like Max of course. So yeah, it would be MB&F.
So, Max and the whole MBNF tribe, if you're listening, you know where to find Diederik.
Thanks, Alon.
You mentioned something interesting that the Dutch are in there for the long run. Are you building Volan that it becomes your prime time spent and or income, and maybe even think of legacy for your kids to have the opportunity to take over?
Yeah, I'm most of the time always in for the long run, and I really enjoy building the brand and getting the brand further up. I don't want to force my kids into something, but of course I would be proud as hell if they would continue this. They are quite interested in it already, but that's I guess because they see my passion for it. So yeah, I'm in there, especially in there for the long run, and trying to get something and a brand that's recognizable for doing a bit different, taking a different approach to timepieces.
We have a lot of listeners that daydream about starting a watch brand. We actually have a lot of people that are preparing to start a watch brand. We have a lot of people that just started a watch brand, and we have listeners and actually many brand owners and CEOs of watch brands in our WhatsApp community. So we know they listen to the podcast. Can you maybe share a bit of tricks, tips, and to avoid mistakes since you've already started your second watch brand for those listeners?
Yeah, I think it's first of all you need to start to do it and ask around and show and already show your ideas and your initial thoughts with people. Just get them out there, and you'll be surprised how many good reactions you get and how many help you will get from the community and from just your friends or an accountant or an old friend from back in the days. But you have to get your idea out and start with prototyping and just start doing it. I think that's the most important thing. And a lot of people are, I guess, have the idea, but you just have to go for it and already start it. And I always say W40 started at W1. So they took 40 chances or 40 experiments to get there. So yeah, you have to get back up your feet and just try and try again. Yeah.
A lot of people have issues of financing. Would you mind sharing a bit how you finance the first and second watch company? Is this something you can speak about?
Yeah. Yeah. The first company, I bootstrapped it. So we had I think we had an initial investment of 5,000 euros to get the samples and a website and a big gin tonic bar and a facility. We invited 150 friends, family, and people who like watches. I think then we sold enough to already fund the full production run. Of course, you do need to do your homework up front to know what's the minimum amount you need and if you have a go no go moment. And the second watch brand, so Volan, I funded it myself because I thought it would be the next step. But else, yeah, if you have a good idea, you write it down really well. I think you can get a bit of finance on it, especially if you manage to get some movements. So then you always can get rid of the movements, sell those again, so that the financial risk is quite small, or quite small, relatively small.
Why didn't you crowdfund it the first or second time? Well, the first one was maybe a bit of kind of informal. Why didn't you use Kickstarter or any other platform, for example, for Volan?
I have the starting price from Volan is already quite good, and I didn't want to. I think it's hard to build a brand where you first give away lots of discount, and then after, if that runs well, you go back to your original pricing. I don't think I think that's a good way to go if you want to sell hats or T-shirts or jackets. But I don't think that's a good way to start a luxury brand or a watch brand, because it's in my mind, you're off the wrong feet. Maybe you get it started, but what you're gonna do for the next launch or next product, you always have to go down in pricing again or give a big discount. Yeah, I think you can get your money cheaper somewhere else.
I wanted to ask you also, by being a devil's advocate, I had to collect my thoughts. Sorry for the pause.
No worries.
I'm positive by nature, so it's very difficult for me to be the devil's advocate. But taking on that role, for argument's sake, in this conversation and this discussion, don't you think the watch industry is too crowded? Aren't there too many brands? Those listeners today to this episode that are considering starting a watch brand, should they even do it? Or is your advice simply don't?
No, always do. Always do. I think it's getting more crowded, but on the other hand, especially nowadays with the more design-focused brands, I think there's a bit of more room in the market now. People go for the design products as well, so for sure do it. But then again, test it. Get it out with as little as financial risks as possible. Test it and try it. But for sure, don't give up your job and invest all your life savings into it if you didn't test it.
And there you have your answer. Why there's so many Dutch in the watch industry, relatively speaking, because we just do it. it could have been that a Dutch marketeer helped Nike with that slogan back in the day. I love your positivity, enthusiasm. Just do it. And I hoped you would answer something like that. Because if it's your prerogative or your calling or your artistic need to express yourself that way, I concur with you taking off the hat of a devil's advocate, but putting that hat back on again. Do you even think that our kids will wear wristwatches, let alone have key fobs, because all the cars are keyless nowadays?
Yeah, true. I think they will. And I think there will be a special group of people who still love the analog. And especially in a time getting more and more digitally advanced. I now also play, how do you call the big round, the vinyl. We play vinyl. Why should we? We have a nice sound bars or whatever. And still we go for vinyl. So I think there'll always be room for analog, and especially if you have a good story and a good product, you will find your market for sure.
It's interesting you mentioned vinyl, because this is a little shout out to my dear friends Gabe and Asher from the Collective Horology. They also have a podcast, Openworks, awesome podcast as well. One episode is about the gigantic revival of analog, where they did a bit of research. And they mentioned that vinyl, apparently since the 80s or early 90s, broke the 1 billion sales record. Again, no pun intended on that word. So it is interesting that you mentioned that. You think, therefore, this cycle will go on to our kids. My kids are almost in your age bracket as well, a bit older. And I always wonder, and taking off that hat of being a devil's advocate again, I concur with you. Going back to provoking you for a discussion. Third hypothesis. Is the segment of 1,000 euros, US dollar, Swiss franc, or whatever currency dead? It's not even joking. We joke that the 1,000 is 2,000, the 3,000 became 5,000, 5,000, 10,000, and the 10 is the new 20. Everything went up. It's extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Do you struggle in that price segment?
It depends a lot on how your distribution is set up, I guess. If you're full on retail, I think it will be really difficult. But if you have direct sales, it's still a good price point. And for me, it's quite on the low end side, but I really want to keep it below 1,000 because it's still a key fob, and it should still be a gift, or that you could buy it for your friend who just bought his old-time car or his new boat or whatever. And by asking around and a few guys, they said you have to keep it below 1,000, and I fully agree, because then it's still a present. It's still more tangible to buy, and it's I know that it's still just a key fob, so it cannot be too expensive.
Another example why the Dutch succeed: they don't take themselves too serious. Only 1,000. You obviously chose a psychological price point, which is smart. But that begs the question, do you have enough margin for wholesale and retail?
Yeah, of course, I've thought about that path as well. So it's on the edge, but it also depends. My margin will go up with numbers. So when distribution goes up, my numbers go up, so my margin goes up. So it is possible. It should be specification-wise, I think, around 1,400. Then that would be more mature and more solid. But then again, I want to have the first batch on the streets, on the yachts, in the pockets of people, dangling around, so that I can see them in the wild and be proud and have people talking about it.
And there we have another example why the Dutch are so successful. They're open, they're honest, they're transparent. What you see is what you get. Rests me, dear Diederik, to ask you one more question. If we have budding and aspiring entrepreneurs listening and they want a bit of feedback, are they allowed to contact you for some mentoring, coaching, and tips and tricks?
Of course. Always happy to help. I'm an alumni at Erasmus University as well for the entrepreneurship master, because I love when people are excited, and especially young people are excited and want to do stuff. So for sure they can reach out.
Rests me to thank you so much, Diederik. I always enjoy talking to you, including this episode. Rob was traveling, so I was kind of happy he couldn't make it to this recording because I had you all to myself and our dear listeners as well. Dear listeners, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. You can find all our previous episodes on our official website, www.therealtime.show. You can find us on Instagram via @therealtime.show. If you want to support the show, please subscribe, like, rate, and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feedback, and/or criticism, please do send us a message. And if you want to join the TRTS community like Diederik, and you want to chat with him directly there, or even share us your questions in that community and see Diederik answering in the community, even better, we become a little wiki, you can send us a DM and we'll add you. You can find Scarlett on the gram via @SCARLINTHESIHIRE. David, you can find on Instagram @DAVAUCHER. Rob is @ROBNUDDS. And me, you can find at my full name, Alon Ben Joseph. If you prefer to send us an email, just add our first name to @therealtime.show, which is our IG handle as well. Stay sane and keep on ticking.